Hey guys, I'm Ryan Moore along with
Neil Patel
and Lindsay Timberpole.
And we decided to do a 2 to 4 player game called Tron.
The game works by having each player move around the screen using their joystick. Each move made makes your track longer, and the goal is to continue to create a path that will force the other players to run into yours or another player's code. Since we built the game to work with 2 to 4 players and there can only be one winner, once a player runs into another's path, it is no longer active and must wait until the game is restarted to play again.
At the start of the game, the players are prompted to choose either host or client. Whoever chooses host will be prompted with the message waiting for clients, and the clients will be prompted waiting for host. Based on the number of players specified in the header file, the host will enter the create game thread. In this thread, it will establish a connection to the Wi-Fi network, initialize game values such as player positions, and then proceed to continuously receive data from clients. Using a handshake method, the host will wait until it has established a connection with every client and assigned it a client number in order to keep track of which player is which. The host will then send out a ready signal to signal all the clients that the game is beginning. Once the game is begun, the host will cycle through 5 threads: read joystick from host, send data to client, receive data from client, draw objects, and idle. In read joystick, the host will get the X and Y coordinate data from the joystick's displacement and translate that to the new X and Y velocities for the host's player. There are conditions set to control the sensitivity of the joystick and to make it so that a player cannot turn in on itself. In send data to client, the host sends the entirety of the game state to each client iteratively. The thread then sleeps for some amount of time. In receive data from client, the host will iterate through the clients and wait until it has received data from each client. The received data will include each player's velocity matched to the player's array by their client number. In draw host, the host calculates the new position of the player's head by adding the velocity to the current X and Y position. It will then check if the player is colliding with another player or a boundary, and if it does, it will kill the player, stopping its movement. If only one player is left alive, then the host initiates the end of game host thread.
In endgame host, we wait for all the semaphores to be released, kill all the threads, and then reinitialize the semaphores. We then ensure that every client has reached the end of the game. Then we set the screen to the winner's color and wait for a button to be pressed. Once pressed, we reinitialize the players and send the new game state for the next round to all the clients. We can now initialize the board, add all the threads back, and then kill the thread.
The idle thread is there to give the OS a thread to run when all others are occupied. Nothing is done in this thread.
For the clients, the join game thread is the only thread to run after launching the OS. We first set the client's strict attributes. To get the IP, we call getLocalIP. We then send the client's info to the host, and in return we get the number of active players, and use that to give the client a client number, which will help us later on. Then we wait for all the clients to connect to the host. We then set an LED to display connection, initialize the board state and semaphores, add threads, and then finally kill the join game thread. Read joystick client will read the joystick values and determine if it is being pushed fully in a direction, updating the client's velocity accordingly. Send data to host sends the current state of the client, which will have the updated direction of its player. Receive data from host continuously receives the data until a return value greater than 0 is returned, meaning valid data has been read, and therefore the client has the current game state. If the game is done, we add end of game client. If not, we sleep for 2 milliseconds. Draw client will draw the position of each player on the client's board. If a player is dead, its position doesn't become updated, so it's just drawing in the same spot over and over. To ensure that we don't skip over spots, the draw client thread will run multiple times before the position even updates. End of game client will wait for all the semaphores to be released, kill all the other threads, clear the screen with the winning color, and then send to the host that it understands the game is over. Once all the clients have ended their game, the host can then send back to each client that the new game is ready. The client can now initialize the board and semaphores, add back the threads, reinitialize the client, and then kill the thread.